Roman occupation. So we've got the crowd and we've got Barabbas, and we kind of understand them. Next up, we've got the religious leaders of the time. Now, they were stirring up the crowd. Now, not only is the crowd already irrational because it's a crowd, but then they're whispering, telling secrets, telling lies, whatever they've got to do to stir the crowd up in anger against Jesus, to make a bad decision. And while they were whispering these lies, while they were spreading this dissent, they missed their long-awaited Messiah. They missed who they were looking for all those years, because they had come to trust in their own understanding of what he would be. And they looked at him, but they didn't see him. And they felt like they had a good thing going. I mean, after all, they had constructed this way of life for quite a while, where they were at the top and everybody else was a little bit below them in Jewish society. And they wanted to protect that way of life. In their estimation, Jesus had insulted them many times when he called them things like a brood of vipers. That didn't win him any friends among the religious elite. And then Jesus also said things like the traditions of men that they had added on top of the scriptures had resulted in packing people down heavy with tradition. In fact, I love the way the Message version of the Bible puts it in Matthew 23:4. When Jesus is speaking to the religious leaders, and it says, instead of giving you God's law as food and drink by which you can banquet on God, they package it in bundles of rules, loading you down like pack animals. They seem to take pleasure in watching you stagger under these loads and wouldn't think of lifting a finger to help. Now that's an accusation, and they weren't real happy with that accusation. They wanted to protect that way of life. See, Jesus had come and he said, I have an easy yoke, and they had a hard yoke. He had light burdens. Their burdens were heavy. He was in direct conflict with those religious leaders. So we have the religious leaders, the irrational crowd, and the robber that they saw as a Messiah figure. Next up, we have Pilate. Now, the scriptures tell us that Pilate was a governor or a procurator of Rome. And by that title, we know that he is both a soldier and a politician. Like most other politicians or governors, he was most likely always looking for a way to advance himself. And in Matthew's account, we find that he was warned by his wife not to have a part in the death of Jesus because she had been disturbed by a dream. And finally, in this group of characters, we have the most important character. We have Jesus. Now, he's the truth, the life, and the way, and we all understand that. He came looking for the lost. He's the King of the Jews, but he's the King of their hearts. He's not looking for the tax dollars. He's looking for their hearts. So as we take these images into this scene, now we'll go back. Let's go back through the text and try to understand it a little bit more. Pilate entered the praetorium again, called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the King of the Jews?" And Jesus answered, "Are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this concerning me?" Now, what Jesus is really trying to get at, he's trying to see where Pilate's heart is positioned. Now, is Pilate really seeking Christ here? Is he seeking the king? Or is he just worried about what Jesus had been accused of? Well, Pilate answers quickly. And in fact, you can almost sense in Pilate's response that he wants to say, I'll ask the questions here. He says, "Am I a Jew? You're not my king. Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done?" So he puts it back on Jesus. Now, Jesus understands and he perceives the heart of Pilate at that point. And he says, "My kingdom's not of this world." And what he's doing there is he's assuring Pilate that Rome doesn't have to be afraid of me. I'm not after the same things that Caesar's after. You know, even earlier he had spoke, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's." They weren't after the same things. Pilate had no reason to fear him. So he said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here." Pilate therefore said, "Are you a king at all then," basically? I mean, I don't really see where you're a king. If you're not going to demand their tax dollars, you're not going to rise up against Rome, what kind of kingdom is this? And Jesus said, rightly, I am a king. Rightly you say, I'm a king. For this cause I was born, for this cause I came to the world, that I should bear witness to the truth, and everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Now he's looking for the hearts of men, and he's bearing witness to the truth. Now Pilate then responds with almost a sarcastic question, because what is truth? See, Pilate understands truth the way a lot of the secular world does, and it is subjective to him. So, truth, oh, your version of the truth, okay, well, you don't scare me. You don't frighten me. You're not really a challenge to Rome. Whatever your truth and your hearts of men, okay, well, he doesn't even wait for the answer from Jesus when he asks that question. No, he turns and he goes out again to the Jews and he says, I find no fault in him. Basically what he's stating is, Rome's not worried about this guy. But you have a custom that I should release to you someone at Passover. Do you want me to release to you the King of the Jews? And then they all cried out again, not this man, but Barabbas. Oh, I forgot an important part about Barabbas. See, Barabbas is a surname. And it's very rare in Scripture for someone to be referred to only by their surname. Now, most scholars agree on the reason why. And that being that the first name of Barabbas was also Jesus. And the writers used the surname Barabbas to avoid confusion between the two. And Jesus was a very common name. Jesus was the Greek version of Joshua, which was a popular name meaning Yahweh is salvation. So when Pilate offers this choice to the people, he's basically asking them, do you want Jesus Barabbas or do you want Jesus Christ? Or maybe more poignant to today, do you choose the Jesus you think you want or the Jesus you desperately need? See, if we're not careful, oftentimes, we're not asking for the true one. We're asking for our version. We're not looking for him the way he would have us serve him. We're looking for him the way we would have him serve us. And that's our choice. We've been missing the point. The church on earth, and please understand, I'm not talking about the church eternal and spiritual, triumphant, but the physical representation of the church on earth seems to be largely missing the points. Ordaining homosexuals as ministers, winking at sin every time you turn around. We're making the wrong choices. To quote a Christian artist from a couple of years ago, he talked about the retreat from our fervor for Christ to teaching no more than a humanist philosophy void of the true gospel. And that some churches have become so open-minded that their brains leaked out. We've lost who we're really supposed to be focused on. And we've lost the plot there. Where is the fear of God? And respectively, the beginning of wisdom. We need to ask ourselves daily, are we choosing the things we want over Jesus? Over the Jesus we desperately need? And we need to make no mistake about it. Our need for him is desperate. More desperate now than ever before. The scriptures say that in him we live and move and have our being. Think about that for a moment. Well, without his ever-attentive will toward us, we would cease to exist. And we would be left to find our own existence. Our being is completely wrapped up in him. Without his desire for us, we wouldn't exist. Would there be no way for us to find our own existence? Scripture again says, every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shifting shadow.